Superman is one of those characters where it's hard to pinpoint exactly when you were first introduced to him. He's up there with characters like Mickey Mouse or Hello Kitty, where he was always somewhat a part of your subconscious, like everybody already knows him out of the womb. He is the de facto superhero. He is Superman. It's in his name. You've probably seen people on almost a daily basis wear a Superman logo as a hat or t-shirt or whatever, because even his beginning initial has become ubiquitous with strength and courage. His reach is so universally felt, it's almost as if Superman was a real person that existed in our history. However, I am lucky enough to still have my memory of when I first saw Superman. It was a rerun of the 2005 Krypto the Superdog cartoon. I must have watched it somewhere between 2006 to 2008 for reference. Though the show focused on the cute cartoon dog, Superman felt like a myth, a figure so beyond our understanding that we are only existing in a chunk of its larger life. It kind of felt like seeing Yoda on screen for the first time. Despite his goofy and friendly introduction, his importance is felt. Though this would make me conscious of Superman, I would yet to describe myself a Superman fan. This would change as I started to get into comic book superheroes, specifically Spider-Man and Batman. With the Avengers release in 2012, I wanted to know about the larger superhero universe that I had been missing out on, and a perfect opportunity came in 2013 with the release of Man of Steel. I remember that day very vividly. It was Father's Day. I had just done woodcutting with my dad, and we went to go see a movie in the theaters. As a big fan of superheroes at the time, Man of Steel was the perfect choice for me. I almost remember my entire theater experience. I even remembered some of the ads that played before the film started. The movie was bold, it was intense, it was gritty. It was everything I wasn't expecting Superman to be. I went into that theater not caring about Superman at all, and left believing that a man could fly. I wanted to learn more as soon as I came out, not just about Superman, but the DC universe as a whole. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, the Justice League, the Teen Titans. I was introduced to my favorite DC superhero at the time, Shazam, who I still hold in high regards to this day. When I would sometimes play pretend superheroes, I would play Superman, Shazam, Nightwing, characters that I found deeply interesting. And of course, I got my first comic book, Superman and Batman: The Search for Kryptonite. And I don't know if this is just nostalgia speaking, but I still think that comic book is great, a perfect introduction to the medium as a whole. But what I specifically loved about Superman wasn't just the high intense action or the cool costumes and superpowers, it was the people underneath the mask. It was the Clark Kents who came from the humble towns of Smallville. It was the Peter Parkers who take on immense responsibility when growing up, or even the teenage angst of Leonardo and Raphael going at each other. And a part of this appreciation for the side of DC Comics came from my love of Man of Steel. That struggle, that fear, that weight of emotions that lay on the shoulders of Clark Kent was something I could relate to as an autistic child. To this day, I still use the advice of focusing on one thing when you're overwhelmed. If a Superman story can make at least one person's life better, then in my opinion, it succeeds. But if you know me, you would know that today, I don't really like Man of Steel. I don't think it's a very good movie. I didn't like its pretension, its bland characters, its confused messages, and at worst, it was hard to overlook its religious and military propaganda, something that Superman should never be in my opinion. But it helped, it did good. Despite all these circumstances, it still reached out a kind and gentle hand. It's why I still get goosebumps watching this movie. It's why I consider myself too biased to sometimes talk about it. Because even if you're the most cynical person in the world, it is almost impossible to make Superman hopeless. And all these years later, I started to feel an itch. I needed a new Superman movie. I am of course old enough to drive myself to the local comic book shop, pick up whatever I want to read, and then read it. The best source for Superman content is always the comic books. But there's something about the communal experience of watching a movie together in one place, where we're all focused and interested on the same thing. It's kind of like a mini convention. My anxieties got so big, I actively sat down to learn how to write screenplays just so I could write my own Superman script. And by God, despite the fact that the script is shit, I poured in so much love into it. I had an idea, I had a vision, I just didn't know how to translate it. It was a story of anti-heroes and corporations who find somebody like Superman to be outdated. They hate his existence, they destroy his home, they try to break his integrity, believe that they are the ones bringing truth into the world, while Superman keeps people ignorant, all culminating in a showdown between Superman and a warped, twisted version of himself, with only moments to spare to stop an impending war that would slaughter millions of innocents. I started writing the script in June 2023 through February 2024, and I probably won't publish it as I never finished the third act. So could you imagine that only a year later, I'd be sitting in a movie theater watching a Superman movie, mind completely blown as I bear witness to something so similar to my script on the big screen. It's obviously more concise and well written than the thing I slapped together, but it really felt like my dream Superman movie right in front of me. Everything I loved about the character for the past 12 years. And that communal experience I longed for extend even beyond the theater, with Superman's messages of kindness and acceptance being felt throughout my local community. From strangers in Superman t-shirts hyping each other up to kids walking around wearing capes. It feels like everybody wants to be that punk rocker that Superman is. But this new Superman movie is just one part of a much larger universe, and so I want to recommend some of my favorite Superman comic books that you can go out and read right now. Before I start, I need to talk about sources for reading comic books. There's of course online and physical retailers that carry books such as Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but I always recommend first and foremost going to your local comic book shop if you have one. Comic books is a medium that needs your support, and especially small businesses that carry comic books. If you don't have a whole lot of money for comic books, then I have two great recommendations for you. I find that used or secondhand books are such an unutilized resource, so websites like Thrift Books can offer you a lot for cheap. I also recommend you check out your local public library. So many of them have offered free online resources that you can just access from home. This includes Hoopla, which is a streaming service for books, including many comics. This is where I read Superman Up in the Sky, Invincible, and Absolute Justice, so it's all completely worth it. So that's enough preamble, let's talk about the Superman comics you should read. There are these comics that I call the Big Five, comics that you see in every recommendation video. Superman Birthright, Superman for All Seasons, Superman Up in the Sky, Superman Smashes the Klan, and All-Star Superman. They're some of the most iconic and beloved Superman stories of all time, and it's the 5 comics where most people start, but I should let you in on this. It doesn't really matter what order you read these 5 in, as long as you read Birthright first, and as long as you read All-Star Superman last. And it's not because as an origin comic you should read Birthright first, but it's because of how All-Star Superman is about the end of Superman's life. It's the sort of comic book where you need a lot of background on Superman's life and the conventions of Superman's stories for it to be that emotionally resonating experience that a lot of people describe it as. At the very least, read Birthright and All-Star Superman, and thankfully DC has released these 2 comics as a part of the DC Compact series, making them both only $10 each, so you have no excuse not to read them. But if you want some recommendations outside of the traditional ones you see everyone give, then I have a few for you. Grant Morrison is an undisputed comic book legend that wrote the aforementioned All-Star Superman story, but they also wrote Action Comics for the New 52, as well as Superman and the Authority, so you get a little taste of younger and older Superman, which kind of brings me into some individual storylines which are really great, like Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, or For the Man Who Has Everything, or What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, the American Way. It's okay to not know the full context of a comic book before or after reading it. Believe it or not, but most comic book fans do this, just pick a random issue off the shelf and begin reading. It's pretty fun, they often give you enough context going in, and if you're still confused, you can just use Google. Next is Superman Space Age, which on the outside seems like a very classical story, but on the inside sort of moves characters through real time, which is really cool in my opinion. It sort of combats the idea of superheroes never aging to show what would happen if they did. Superman the Exile is a really great story that shows what would happen if Superman crossed that line and ended up killing somebody, and how he would atone for those mistakes. Then there are the really subversive takes on Superman, like Superman's Secret Identity, where he's just a normal person on Earth, and Absolute Superman, where it explains what would happen if Superman was raised on Krypton. Polar opposite comic books, but very incredible in their own way. To end this before I start trailing into endless rambling about my favorite Superman stories, I have only scratched the surface mind you, I'm going to recommend a couple of stories from Superman's extended cast. Those are Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King, Adventure Comics by Jeff Johns, and Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen by Jack Kirby. In my opinion, even for the very far out there ones, any of these comics is a perfect way to start. All that matters now is that you pick up and read whatever you think is cool. Superman is a character that was able to always find a way to cross generational gaps, and it just found a way this generation. He has been a universal symbol that tells us that anybody has the power to bring good into this world. Your abilities may seem small and natural, but to others they can be super. So my biggest recommendation for you is that you do more than just read these comics, but carry their stories and messages with you. Even if it's small gestures or if you think your actions don't matter, it means the world that somebody is able to still care. Thank you guys for watching this video. It's been a long time coming, and it's one I've been meaning to do since I started this channel. Let me know what you guys think about Superman or the new movie in the comments below. I would love to read it. That's all the time I have for today. I've been May, and I'll see you next time.